The truth often arrives too late, like a letter lost between time zones, reaching its destination when the sender is already gone. After Menglong's passing, his family and management released an official statement, thanking fans for their love and asking for privacy. But what the public didn't know was that inside his home in Beijing, his assistant had found a small box sealed with a wax mark. Inside were 3 letters. Each envelope was dated weeks apart, none addressed by name, but all written in the same gentle handwriting. The first letter read, "I am learning to live with silence. But sometimes, when I hear her voice, the world feels like it's breathing again. Maybe I was sent here just to meet her, not to stay, but to know what love can feel like." The second letter. "The doctors say I should rest, but I keep working. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of leaving too soon, before she knows what she meant to me. If one day I disappear, I hope she'll smile when she remembers me. That would be enough." And the third, dated only a week before his death. "Tonight, the moon is bright in Seoul. If she's looking at it too, maybe she'll know. I've written her name 100 times in my mind, and erased it just as many, because love like this is meant to stay unnamed." None of the letters mentioned Suzy directly. Yet, to those who knew his heart, the message was unmistakable. The revelation of these letters came quietly, leaked through a fan forum months after his passing. At first, no one believed it. But when Suzy posted a handwritten note on her social media days later, her first long message since his death, the connection became impossible to ignore. There are people we meet once, and they change everything we believe about love. Even if time separates us, even if words are left unspoken, their presence never really leaves. Thank you for teaching me that silence can still mean forever. She didn't mention his name. She didn't have to. Every fan understood. Behind the scenes, Suzy had taken a long break from projects. Friends said she spent most days by the ocean, painting, journaling, and avoiding interviews. When one of her close stylists asked if she was doing better, she simply said, "He was tired. I think he wanted peace. Now I'm learning how to give it to him." Months later, while reorganizing his belongings for an upcoming memorial exhibition, Menglong's sister discovered something else, a USB drive labeled Moonlight. Inside were fragments of a song, unfinished lyrics, a gentle piano melody, and a few recorded notes of his voice humming softly. One lyric stood out. "If love had another life, I'd meet you again in spring. I'd still call you my silence, and I'd still let you in." His agency later decided not to release the song publicly, but rumors spread that the melody was quietly given to Suzy by his family. A few months later, she released a digital single titled Moonlight Doesn't Leave. It wasn't promoted heavily, yet it charted across Asia within hours. Her voice was soft, trembling in places, not the polished tone of an idol, but something raw and painfully human. The melody carried echoes of his unfinished song, and at the end of the music video, a single frame appeared, dedicated to someone who taught me how to love in silence. During a radio interview, the host asked gently, "Was this song inspired by someone?" Suzy smiled faintly, her eyes distant. "By someone who kept his promises, even after he was gone." The following winter, Suzy attended a charity gala in Beijing, her first public appearance there since the tragedy. The event supported heart disease research, though her team made no official connection. When she took the stage, she spoke softly in Mandarin, her voice trembling but clear. "Sometimes, life doesn't give us time to say everything we feel. So, I'm saying it now. Cherish people when they're here. Love them loudly. Don't wait for silence." The crowd rose to their feet. For a moment, even the cameras didn't flash, as if the whole room understood that this wasn't just a speech, but a farewell finally spoken aloud. Later that night, Suzy visited the memorial site at the lake where fans had placed candles for Menglong. It was snowing lightly. She stood there alone, wrapped in a long beige coat, her hair falling softly against the wind. A fan who happened to be nearby described the scene. She looked up at the sky, smiled, and whispered something I couldn't hear. Then she bowed her head, touched one of the candles, and walked away. It felt like she was telling him, "I kept my promise." The healing didn't happen overnight. Some wounds don't close. They simply stop bleeding. But over time, Suzy began to find new light. She returned to acting, choosing roles that carried themes of love, loss, and quiet strength. Critics noticed a change in her performances, a depth that hadn't been there before. "It's like she's no longer acting," one director said. "She's living through every scene." Fans could see it too. Every time the camera lingered on her eyes, it was as if she was speaking to someone who wasn't there, someone she still carried with her. Even years later, when asked in interviews about love, Suzy never gave direct answers. She would smile softly and say, "Love doesn't always have to end with forever. Sometimes, it just has to be true," and those who remembered the story of Yu Menglong knew exactly what she meant. Time passed quietly. The world moved on, as it always does, but some stories never really end. They simply become soft echoes that live inside the people who remember. For Suzy, healing didn't arrive like sunrise. It came slowly, like moonlight finding its way through clouds. In interviews, she began to smile again, though the sadness in her eyes never completely faded. She once said, "I used to think closure meant forgetting. Now I know it means remembering with peace." It had been a year since Yu Menglong's passing when she returned to Beijing for a film festival. The city was drenched in spring rain, the same season they first met. When she stepped onto the red carpet, fans noticed something unusual. Pinned just above her heart was a small silver moon brooch, simple, elegant, and identical to the one Menglong had worn at an awards show years earlier. No words were spoken, yet everyone understood. Later that night, after the event, she visited the quiet park near Hohai Lake. It was almost empty, the water shimmering beneath lantern reflections. She carried a single white candle and a folded letter. Witnesses said she knelt by the water's edge and lit the candle, shielding the flame from the wind with her hands. Then she unfolded the paper and whispered a few lines before letting it drift into the lake. No one knew what the letter said, but one of the staff members who accompanied her recalled that she whispered the words, "I forgive myself," and that, perhaps, was the moment her healing truly began. Meanwhile, across Asia, fans kept their story alive in ways both subtle and beautiful. Art students painted murals of the moon reflecting over water. Musicians covered Suzy's song, "Moonlight Doesn't Leave." Writers published poems titled "The Silent Couple." None of it was official. None of it was for fame. It was simply love continuing its quiet work. In Beijing, fans established a small yearly event called the Moon Festival of Remembrance, held every April 8th, the day Yu Menglong filmed his final scene. Each year, hundreds gather by the riverbank, holding lanterns shaped like moons. They sing softly, share stories, and at midnight, release the lanterns into the water. And in Seoul, fans started a similar tribute near the Han River Bridge, the same spot where, years ago, a woman in a cream coat and a man in a black mask had once stood beneath a streetlight. Suzy has never publicly attended these gatherings, but one year, fans swore they saw her car parked quietly near the bridge. She didn't step out, didn't wave. She just sat there for a long while, windows slightly lowered, eyes lifted toward the same moon that so many others were watching. Perhaps she was remembering. Perhaps she was saying thank you. In the following years, Suzy's artistry deepened. She produced her own album, a minimalist, emotional piece titled "Half of the Sky." Every song touched on themes of loss, gratitude, and rebirth. The final track, "When the Moon Stopped Shining," began with a faint hum that listeners immediately recognized as the melody from Menglong's unfinished song. At the end of the track, there was no grand chorus, no orchestral swell, just Suzy's voice, barely above a whisper. "You said the moon never fades. I believe you now." No credits, no explanation. Only that. By the 5th anniversary of his passing, Suzy agreed to appear in a documentary about love and loss in the entertainment industry. It was her first time speaking directly about grief. Sitting by a window, she looked calm, no makeup, just the soft light of morning spilling across her face. I think the hardest part was knowing that some stories are meant to be incomplete, she said. But I've learned that even unfinished things can still be beautiful. When the interviewer asked whether she still thought of him, she smiled faintly. Every full moon, she replied. But it doesn't hurt anymore. It just feels quiet. That night, as the documentary aired, the internet flooded with messages of support. Fans from China, Korea, and beyond shared photos of the moon taken from their own windows. Each post carried the same caption, #the moon stayed. And somewhere between those millions of glowing screens, between Seoul's skyline and Beijing's quiet streets, it felt as if Menglong's light had found its way home. In the years that followed, Suzy built a foundation supporting young artists with mental health challenges, dedicating it anonymously in his memory. The organization's logo, a small silver crescent. She never claimed credit, never attached her name. It was enough for her to know that something good had come from their story. He once told me he didn't want to be remembered as sadness, she said quietly in a later interview. So, I turned his memory into light. And yet, there are still nights when the sky over Seoul feels just a little brighter, when the moon seems to pause longer before moving behind the clouds. Fans call it Menglong's moon. Suzy never denies it. She just smiles whenever someone mentions it, as if she's hearing a secret only she and the universe share. Because maybe love, like theirs, never really ends. It simply changes form. It becomes art, memory, and gentle light that guides others through their own darkness. Epilogue. Years later, during an award ceremony, Suzy was invited to present the Lifetime Achievement Award to a senior Chinese director who had once worked with Menglong. As she stood on stage, she looked out into the crowd and said softly, "There are people who leave, yet their light remains. And sometimes, that light becomes part of us. So even when the moon stops shining, we carry its glow inside." The audience rose in applause. But for a few seconds, Suzy didn't move. She simply looked upward, smiling through tears, and whispered something no one could hear. Some said she said his name. Others said she was saying goodbye again. But maybe she was just saying thank you. And when she stepped off the stage, the camera caught one final moment. Her fingers brushed the small silver moon brooch pinned near her heart. The moonlight glinted softly against it, as if somewhere, somehow, Menglong was smiling back. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more touching K-drama stories and emotional news-style narratives.